Broadcasting Studio 24 in California, the entertainment capital of the world, featuring Dr. Dwight Rogers and Tony G. It's the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. And now, your host, Jeremy Brooks.
Welcome to the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. We're live from the Brooks Broadcasting Studio 24. This is episode 26, and tonight we're doing something different. For the first time on this show, I'll be your host. That's right, you're not imagining things. I am your host. Dr. Kofi, a.k.a. Administrator of the Year, sitting in the big boy chair, coming to you with the family. Now, I want to first say thank you very much to Dr. Brooks for allowing this, but before I go any further, I know you just heard me say that, right? Dr. Brooks. I'll be your host, and Dr. Jeremy Brooks is joining us as our featured guest. But before we begin, we want to thank our 1.5 million viewers across the 47 countries who continue to support the show. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share it. Bring a friend. Tell everybody. We want to hear from you. We want you to join us. And join us for this chat. But tonight's theme, the doctoral journey, the value of education and why it still matters. Tonight we're diving into what it really takes to earn a doctorate, what education truly is worth today, the mindset behind the long-term success, and how fields like science and chemistry connect with real-world impact. Joining us tonight is Tony G. Bringing the classroom perspective, we have Luke Medina, Director of Brand Partnership with a background in chemistry, and tonight's guest, our own Dr. Jeremy Brooks. Give him a hand. Yeah. Panel, okay, we're going to go around the room. We want to just check in and see what's going on with everyone. Now, obviously, we want to address the elephant in the room. But first, we'll start with Luke, our other guest. Luke. Tell us, what's been going on?
Oh, man, we're just working hard here at Brooks Broadcasting. We're trying to grow the team. We're trying to grow the business, and we got boots on the ground. My guy Tony over here. Okay. And, yeah, we're just working hard right now, trying to expand.
Nice. Well, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. This is my first live broadcast, so I'm a little nervous, but we'll get through it.
Well, I guess we can share that nervousness.
Okay. This will be the nervous side.
Okay. And we'll come over here to Tony G. Hey. Talk to us.
Well, Dr. K, Dr. Brooks, Luke. As you know, building a grassroots broadcast is incredibly, well, obviously difficult. It's not the word, okay? But I'm going to say this, it's been exciting.
Okay.
We're, 6 months into the project of just following this man's vision.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to say we're in the air and we haven't crashed yet.
Yeah.
We're not going to crash.
No, we're not.
Nope.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
That's what's going on.
Now, I've seen some videos, too, that you posted, going behind the scenes. Some very interesting and some good videos. Now, during the show, if you can just talk to us about that, that'd be great. So thank you very much for keeping those videos going.
Absolutely.
Now, there's some stuff that's public that we could share a little bit of it,
Yeah.
Right?
So,
It was in the paper.
Okay. So when we come back, we'll make sure we address that.
We got lots to talk about that.
Now, let's talk about the man of the hour, the man of the day, Dr. Jeremy Brooks. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm good. It's interesting because it's like still getting used to some things, still getting used to being Dr. Brooks. It's It's been a long journey. Very thankful that I've had the chance to go through school and to get my doctorate degree and to be where I'm at. But it's just been a lot of fun, and I'm glad to be here tonight with our team, our amazing team. This is going to be a fun show, and I'm so excited to see you in this seat. So maybe more to come in the future, right?
Absolutely. So again, I thank you very much for the opportunity. But enough about me. Hey, so talk to us. People see the title, but do they really see the journey behind it? Talk to us about the journey a little bit.
It's interesting because for anybody thinking about continuing their education, it doesn't matter whether, you're thinking about going back to school to get your GED, or you're thinking about getting an associate's degree or a certificate, whatever it might be, including a doctorate degree. It's a sacrifice. It certainly has been a sacrifice. You have time is an asset that you're never going to get back.
Right.
But that's something that, it's part of the journey, and it's been a long journey. It's taken me almost 4 years to actually get my doctorate degree.
Okay.
So it was a lot of work. It's funny. I've been kind of reflecting back on it too. And, because I don't want to take it for granted where I'm at today. And there was a lot of nights where, I had 3 classes a week and I'm busy every night working away, getting stuff done. And then we would have a residency on a weekend. So it was a full day, all day of classes. And, but I grew so much, and I'm so thankful again for the opportunity to have gotten my doctorate degree and to be here today.
Nice. Well, again, congratulations. But before we go any further, we have some younger viewers in the audience.
Yeah.
What is a residency?
Good question. Good host. So a residency is basically an in-person learning day where you're going and essentially you're working on some kind of big, oftentimes project, culminating project that could be what, like for us educators, we like to call a summative assessment, or it's, an opportunity to practice some skills, some hands-on skills, real world skills regarding whatever it is that you're learning. And so that's sort of what a residency is. Now there's different residencies.
Right.
So, and my doctorate degree is a doctorate of education, right? And leadership. But there are, of course, residencies for people who get a doctorate of medicine and a residency for, so the residency requirement might look different depending on your discipline.
Okay. Yeah. So now we have Dr. Rob here checked in. Hey, Dr. Rob, how you doing, sir?
Dr.
Hey,
Rob.
he wanted me to ask Tony G, did you play a doctor in one of your movies?
Well, it's funny you asked that. I was a EMT in a hit series Trauma on NBC a while back. And they said, you got the face and the body that saves lives.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And so, yes, also a police officer. Let's not talk about Moneyball. I was a cop.
No big deal.
No, but again, dude, yes, I did it all. But I got to shine it back to Dr. Brooks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that guy's.
Thank you for that, Tony. I appreciate that. Dr. Brooks, so you mentioned the 4-year journey. What was the hardest part of that journey?
Ooh, hardest part of the journey. I think, again, I talked a little bit about sacrifice, you're giving up time. And so for me, one of the most difficult things was just, during those long nights, those long weeks where we had the residencies, just basically knowing that I wasn't, going to be home with our pets, with family, with loved ones. And so it is something that, you really got to think about and consider whether you want to give up that kind of time. And then I think it kind of gets you going back to your why. You have to, that comes into play, and that helps to keep you motivated and encouraged to keep on going, especially when times are tough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said times were tough. Did you ever think about a moment where you wanted to quit?
Yes, definitely. And I'm not afraid to admit that. But, Dr. Robbie's been on our show a lot, like he talks about, it's important to be resilient. And so there was a moment for me, because again, it is a 4-year journey. So there are going to be life circumstances that do happen. And so, of course, that happened for me. My father had an emergency situation where he had a very serious health crisis that occurred. And I didn't know what the status was going to be in terms of his level of care and need. And so there was a moment where I did have to pause my studies, and I took a break. And it wasn't like, because it was a cohort model, it wasn't like I could take a break just for a moment. It meant that I was going to have to take a year off, which was a really tough decision. And so I did that. And this was about a year and a half or so into the program. And so I did take a break. I took a year off. But then, once you take that time off, you kind of start to wonder, like, should I go back? Should I continue on? And I'm really thankful that I did it. And I want to mention this too. I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to do this with my wife, Miss Brooks. She's, currently continuing her doctoral study. She's in the program too. We really got to do it side by side with each other.
Nice.
And we got to have the opportunity to kind of work on some of the work together. And so that, I think, having her as a support made a huge difference as well.
Nice, nice. Wow. Now, I have to tell you that story was heartwarming, right? But it also shared the human experience, because as a human beings, sometimes people see the degree, but they don't know what it took to get that degree. So I want to say thank you very much for being vulnerable and sharing that with us, because a lot of people who want to go for the degree, sometimes they don't know that there's going to be some stumbling blocks along the way, but your perseverance, and like Dr. Rob talks about, the resiliency piece of it kept you going. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Now, as you go through these things, right, and it starts to get down to the wire, when did it feel real? Like, when did you know, like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to hit that line? When did it feel real for you? What's funny is
it didn't feel real. And first of all, I still feel like it's a blur. Still doesn't feel real. I think it's really going to feel real when I get that student loan payment later on. Then it's going to feel real.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, but
it's going to feel real when you pay for mine. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It'll feel real when I have to get a second job.
Episode 100, right?
It'll be real because I'll be thinking about my life decisions. But no, I think it's interesting because you're really in the groove working on your chapters, and for a doctorate degree, you got to write 5 chapters up,
right.
And I would say it finally started to feel real, believe it or not, like right towards the end.
Okay.
About 2 weeks prior to me having to defend my dissertation. Okay, that was really where it finally hit me that, like, okay, I have to defend all of this material that I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Now, you mentioned 5 chapters, right? So why 5 chapters? And are there titles for these chapters?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So you have an introduction.
Okay.
You have a literature review.
Okay.
You have a methods section.
Okay.
You have to report your findings.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're doing a study. And then, of course, at the very end, you get to give a little bit of your sort of analysis of the results. And so you have a discussion section.
Nice, nice. What was the most challenging part of that?
Believe it or not, this is a funny thing. I actually thought that chapter 4 was going to be easy. I did. I don't know why I thought that. I regret thinking that. But I thought chapter 4 was going to be easy, because there are some things that are a little repetitive. You always go back and you repeat your research questions. You restate your purpose. There's some things that are a little repetitive. And I thought, well, I've got this data that I collected from these participants. All I got to do is report this. This is like, what's the big deal? Yeah. But when you start digging through, the number of participants you have and all the hours and hours and hours of discussion data, and you have to analyze it, it takes a long time.
Okay.
And so the analysis piece, doing the coding and looking at the themes and all that stuff, that took quite a while. And then you got to write it up. And so that surprised me how long that took. I totally underestimated that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned data. Are there different types of data?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, what were the types of data that you collected?
So, there's a variety of different types. And if you're ever interested in research and learning about research methods, it's good to be scientifically literate and to know, what types of studies are good studies, which are maybe not so good studies, which have stronger validity and reliability, et cetera. So you can know if you could trust the results. But, some of the data, you have quantitative studies.
Right.
You have qualitative studies. You have mixed methods.
Right. Okay.
I chose to do for mine, I almost went with a mixed methods study.
Okay. Now, what is that? What is a mixed method study?
I'm glad you asked. So mixed methods study, what that means is that I would have been doing a qualitative and a quantitative both.
Okay.
2 different types of designs. But the interesting thing is, there's a saying, and you maybe know this, a done degree is a right.
Right.
So
what's the best type of dissertation? What's the best type of degree? Well, a completed one.
Exactly. So I think, and by the way, this is a lesson for a lot of folks out there that are thinking about redoing their whole study late in their program and their journey. because I've seen that quite a bit. I've seen a lot of people work hard for years only to come to the conclusion that I'm not happy with this. I'm just going to redo the whole thing. That's a lot to do. But the interesting thing is that, when you look at a doctoral study, sometimes not that you want to settle, right? You want to do your best.
Right.
You want to put your best foot forward, but you also have to ask yourself, how much perfection should you expect of yourself?
Absolutely.
And, there's a lot of people out there that are working really, really hard on their studies, doing research, doing great work. But at the same time, it might be delaying their degree and their completion, even by, years, multiple years. So, yeah.
Now, you know the name of those people that don't finish the dissertation piece, right? What do they call them?
I'm not sure.
ABD.
What is it?
All but dissertation. Because you finish, right, technically, but since you don't do your dissertation, you don't finish your degree, and so you don't get the title. And so, like Dr. Brooks just mentioned, people will go through all of that work, but get so hung up on the dissertation piece of it that they forget that there's a finish line that you have to get to. And a time period is ticking, and the older you get and the more time you spend, the harder it becomes. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and then back to your point too. That's what I went to qualitative methods. I decided, I'm not going to do a mixed method study. I'm going to do a qualitative design, and I'm going to do my best work. But at the same time, I'm not going to overburden myself with lots of different, ways to measure data, because it could be at that point counterproductive.
Right. I'm getting from the booth that it takes about, does anyone know how long it takes a typical doctorate program? Anyone know?
I am curious. I don't know.
Isn't it about 4?
I would assume from what
Is it
I've
4?
heard, because I know I happen to know doctors,
Okay.
Just a couple.
and I would assume in addition to, you got to get your master's, right?
Yeah.
You're talking what? At least 3, but I hear 4 years in addition.
Well, for including the masters and 6.
From the booth, that's 5
and
years.
just to add to everything that's being said, because some of my friends, colleagues, and everything he's saying echoes what they said. It's rigorous, it's continuous, and the stress level just to get in front. And again, you're this young aspiring Jedi before the council, and they're just examining what you've done, and they could just rip you apart.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and actually, speaking of that too, I hope you don't mind if we share real quick how I kind of sort of explain this to some of my relatives.
Okay.
Do you remember me mentioning that?
I remember.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that, it's a confusing process for a lot of folks, especially, if you're not, from the background, a typical background of somebody who's, gotten a doctorate degree. And a lot of my family members, they were very unfamiliar. So when I said I had a dissertation defense, they just didn't know what it was. So I had to explain it to them. And the way I tried to explain it was this: it's like a dissertation defense is almost like, a gang initiation. What it's like is this: it's like you go and you sort of get jumped, with all these words, and you got to defend yourself with words. And if you end up, surviving and you make it through and you defend yourself good enough, you end up with that title and you become part of the doctor gang,
Right. So it's a good analogy. Instead of being physically beat up, you get mentally beat up. So that's a good analogy.
That's just
Okay, so let me bring the panel into this. Tony, let's start with you first, sir. Why is it important for students to see their level of perseverance?
So really, it's funny. I was just thinking about this the other night, and I even made a video, and I was going to send it to some of my, former students, because Mr. G poured into a lot of students, right? And we had these conversations because there's a lot of logic in not going into significant debt, right? But with that said, there's a story behind perseverance, resilience, Dr. Rob, and rigor, and having to go through process that is long. And so, again, I don't have a doctorate, but I can attest to having an economics degree, having to learn econometrics. Khan Academy was my teacher for many hours at Sac
All
State.
of us, I think. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? and I can like the anxieties, the pressure. Meanwhile, this guy's running a broadcast.
I know, right?
And teaching. He's crazy.
That's what I'm
And
saying,
getting his
bravo to him.
doctorate.
Now, I'm also hearing from the studio.
I was an
that
admin too
you
at
have
one
an
point.
Yeah,
when I was working
honorary
on
doctorate
student,
degree.
teacher, and
I mean, you could call me a street psychologist if you want to do it. Do I know something about mental health? Absolutely. 15 years.
Yeah.
Intense emotional stir program, just about 10 years. 5 years in CYA, and learning and understanding over time. See, but my education came here, right? FaceTime.
Right, you know, we're going to talk about that maybe in another show.
We can go
talk
deep.
about the honorary part of that, because there's the honorary versus the degrees or whatever that people actually went through school. But that's a different show.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
Come over here to Luke. So, sir, how does that level of discipline translate into other fields?
Man, I think it translates perfect. I mean, for example, I am the director of brand partnerships, and you have to have that discipline because it's not a 9 to 5. It's sometimes it's 6-7 days a week. You know, sometimes there's a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Just like when I'm sure he was going through the program, and so you really have to just stick to it, keep your faith, and persevere, like you mentioned.
Nice.
Yeah, but I do want to ask a question, Jeremy.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
mentioned, about your data. With your data, was it what you expected? The
It
outcome
wasn't.
of
It actually was not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that too. It's interesting because, I did thematic analysis for my qualitative study. I did semi-structured interviews, but when you look at the data, I have 6 themes, overall themes. There's some sub-themes, but I didn't expect a few of the themes that came about. And so that was a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, at some level, everybody has, not that we all have what we think could sort of maybe be an outcome,
Right.
but then it turns out to be different. It's like, wow. That's, I think, part of what makes it fun is that discovery piece of it too.
Right. You know, when I was doing my study, I started to learn that I love to disaggregate data, breaking data down and seeing all of the little pieces within the larger picture became something I became interested in. So when you say I went in thinking one thing, but then as I went in, I'm like, wait a minute, this is not turning out like I thought, and that's interesting when it works out that way. And that's part of the science of doing that work.
Oh, yeah.
So you can take your own biases and put them aside and look at the truth and the reality of what your science brings about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thinking
for
with
that.
fact, not passion.
Can I,
Yeah.
sorry, we'll say what my favorite part about the story is you took a year off for your dad.
Yeah.
And that's special because what you gained from that whole experience, it's here and here. And now you're going in and you have that now
Yeah.
forever.
Right.
And it turned out, thankfully my dad, ended up being okay. But, again, it was still a very serious health matter. And we're very fortunate that things worked out. And so he didn't need quite the level of care, as I thought previously. But, those things happen for a lot of folks. And so when we look at sometimes those people like Dr. Rogers mentioned, who, they're writing their dissertation 3, 4, 5 years. Some of those people have experienced, unexpected tragedies.
Right.
And-
I can speak personally from that because when I did my doctorate work back in 2008, I started it. And then my mother passed away in 2013. And so it interrupted everything. And my life was just shattered. And so going back to school was not on my list of things to do. And so when I got my head together and I wanted to go back, and then I started back in 2019, that's when life was so much easier and better, and my grief had subsided, and I was able to finish a 4-year, degree in 3, but I had the pandemic on my side. But yeah, so you're right. You have to have that mental fortitude, and you have to have that mental clarity.
Yeah.
Because you can't go into a program like that and have all of that on your brain and really be able to fully function and be present.
Yeah. That's why going back to your why though, too.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that can keep you going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I wanted to finish mine because, my mother had, when she was alive, she knew that how important it was to me. And I wanted her to see me walk. And so when I finally had my mental capacities back, that's when I said, you know what, my why. And so you're right. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay. So thank you for that. That was wonderful. You know, gentlemen, thank you for being nice to me on our first time.
Oh, stop.
You're doing great.
You know, hey, you know what? The comments say I'm doing great. Okay.
It's like he's done this before or something.
Yeah.
Okay, we're cooking. We're cooking. Okay, so now the question is, what is education worth today? What is it worth? Is education the same as it used to be? Because, you know, we're in a different time now. 2026 is not 2016 or 2006. So is education still worth the same thing? Let's talk about the big question, okay? So let's start with Luke. Sir,
Let's go.
is higher education still available in today's world, still valuable in today's world?
I do think it is. I do think specialized subjects are maybe a little more important.
Okay.
I do think, especially with the AI world that we're getting into, that like it's kind of the best. It's a really, really good teacher in your pocket now. So I do think that there's a lot of things that will be able to catapult us and push us forward with using that technology. But there's still you can't get away from science. You need to go. You need to be in the classroom. You need to be in the lab. You got to do the work.
Okay.
And actually, you know, that's something because I study chemistry, but that's not what I do.
Right.
So for the longest time, I was like, man, did I waste my time? Did I waste my money? Like, what am I doing? But then full circle, it's come back around to be relevant.
Okay.
And like, you know, the things like discipline and perseverance, like those are things that have really helped me be successful no matter what I do.
Nice.
So, and then doing research and studying and doing a lot of analytics and data, that plays a huge part, especially in marketing and sales, and because the numbers don't lie.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer of that. Like we can all have a thought and we can go into a situation thinking one thing, and that's why I had that question was because a lot of times I feel like it's not always what you expect.
True.
So yeah, there's still value in it. I think everybody needs education. Now, does that mean going to a school, sitting in a classroom? Not necessarily, but I think education and continuing to grow your entire life is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Tony G, are people measuring education the wrong way, do you think?
Well, yes and no. Okay. If you look at it with a literal scope of just a number and dollar sign, then, I mean, they're dead on. You know, you shouldn't, right? Because, I mean, I'll be honest. I always have known I've been intelligent. You know, the teachers told me that, you know, I was assessed as a kid, and man, I didn't need it. I didn't need to do it. But for me, it was a moment that I wanted to break, just a, what do you call it? Just something for the family, the legacy, And, you know, I actually didn't. My brother did. My brother, John. I went around. I finished my degree at 33. Went back to school. It was different. But you know what? I appreciated it. And so it's like how amazing, you know, higher education is. And again, I digress, but this is for me, I'm feeling this, man, because it's taking me back right now. Sac State. I felt it because I did it.
Okay.
So, and again, back to Jeremy, what's your why?
Yeah. You know, so Dr. Brooks, what does education give you besides money?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You know, I was kind of thinking about that.
But it takes your
this
money.
afternoon. It does. It definitely does. I think that, you know, there's, of course, extrinsic and intrinsic value from education. You know, the intrinsic stuff is like what we talked about over here with Luke mentioning, you know, first of all, there's those life skills like the perseverance, the dedication, all those kinds of things that it doesn't matter what you study, what the discipline is, it can actually, you know, teach you some of those really important skills to allow you to be successful in all capacities of life, potentially. So there's the intrinsic value. There's the extrinsic stuff too, though. There's the, of course, financial reward. There's extra units. There's the opportunity to acquire, you know, maybe a promotion.
Right.
You know, if people are looking to grow or go up the ladder in their field, wherever they're at, maybe get a better job to help support and take care of their families. So there's a lot of, I think, value in education today. I think it is interesting, as Luke mentioned too, regarding AI. You know, is education still relevant? And I think that AI is a really important, critical tool. Is it going to have some economic shifts? Sure. But I think overall, education is one of those things that can never be taken from somebody. And I think education is one of those things that, and it might be different for everybody, the level of education that they may need or want to obtain. But it's one of those things that no matter what happens, no matter what you do in life, investing in yourself, you know, you could have, you know, changes in the stock market. There's volatility,
Right.
changes in other markets and other investments, but it's an investment that can't be taken from you.
Thank you for that. So the next question is the lead into what you were just speaking about. Do you think that you've changed because you have a doctorate? Because, you know, sometimes whatever, you know, people say, "Oh, you act different now because you have it." So do you think you've changed as a result of having your doctorate?
I do. I think I definitely act different. My ego is much bigger now.
He smacked me backstage. Back of the head.
That did not happen.
Joking. Didn't happen.
No bullying here. We do
Did
not
not
do that.
happen.
We do not condone violence here.
Jokes. I'm Dr. Joe.
No, I think you know, the one thing that, you know, for me that's changed is just kind of getting used to, you know, wrapping my mind around the idea of this new title that I've taken on, which is an honor, but at the same time, you know, you know, you have your identity, you know, your identity, who you are, and I've always been Jeremy Brooks, and now having this new added title, it's different. It's something that I don't mind, but I'm having to kind of get used to it and come to terms with, like, okay, you know, I'll have this title with me the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting thing. It's yeah.
You know, they have a term for that. It's called imposter syndrome. Right. So with imposter syndrome, you go through a space of time where you've earned something, but you don't feel as though you've earned it. And I think many people go through that, and it doesn't have to be just with a degree. It could be with a job, a title, or you know, being a parent, or whatever. You earn something, but you don't feel like you're ready to walk in those steps, because I know I've been through it.
Yeah.
You know, people call me Dr. Rogers, and I'm like, they're talking to me. You know,
Well,
it's hard.
The one thing, though, too, regarding imposter syndrome is that, you know, I've had that because my dad fed me so much spaghetti as a kid. I have imposter syndrome. So I just
walked right into that.
Yeah,
Why did I walk into that?
Well,
So-
Jeremy, I'm not the real Tony G. It's time, you know, my name's Antonio. And,
That was good. You know, and that was good.
I was that.
That was good. You know, but imposter syndrome is one of those things where it raises your level of thinking also. You know, for being a black, for being African American, it's something that in my community, you know, I understand that it's a privilege for me to be in this space, because I didn't get here by myself, one, and then two, like Tony G talked about, that legacy piece. You know, my son tried, you know, he wanted to follow behind me. Then I have my daughter, again, they went to college, and I'm the first one who graduated from college in my family. And so that legacy piece is important, because what trends do you help start and kickstart? And it does change the way you think sometimes, and it gives you just that open door where people can now walk through it. So
That, you know, and I love that you said that, because for a lot of people, there are first generation college graduates. And I mean, that's one of those things that can help to motivate and encourage, especially when those times get tough. I mean, that was, for me, I think, one of the things too. I was a first generation college graduate too for my family. And, you know, I had definitely that thought crossed my mind a lot of times, you know, that I could help lead this legacy. And in addition to that, you know, open up some doors for my, you know, nephews and nieces coming behind me. And it did. It helped me to help my family apply for colleges and things like that. So it definitely does open up those doors, and it's something that can really help to motivate you.
love that. Thank you
Especially
so
the
much.
knowledge about applying for college and like FAFSA, things like that. Because
It's
man,
overwhelming.
like I tried to go to college right out of high school, and I couldn't. It just wasn't my time. So I went back later. But I had applied to the schools, but I didn't have anybody to help me with the financial aid aspect and all these applications. And so had I had some help or some knowledge from like maybe a predecessor, then I probably would have been able to go in right away. But that, that knowledge is important. And
Absolutely.
that's, I have a little brother, he's 18 and he's pursuing now and I'm able to help him.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
Well, like Tony G said, again, that legacy is like you take those steps and then someone can walk behind you. You have that clear sand, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now your steps, now people can walk in your shoes. Wonderful. So again, thank you. So we're going to step into our segment 4, science and application. Chemistry, thinking, and real world skills. We don't talk enough about science on this show. I don't think we've ever talked about science on the show, did we?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
So let's bring it into the space. So I'll start with Luke. How does chemistry train your brain to think differently?
It's all analytical. You start getting into stereochemistry where you talk about molecules that they shift by like 45 degrees and it's the same molecule, but it's different. So you get into things like that. It's extremely hard and you have to be very disciplined. I remember a lot of 4 a.m. Study sessions in Iraqi over at Stanislaus with my friends. It's not easy, but it's very fulfilling. I'm very grateful for the knowledge it gave me. It gave me the opportunity to do some research through the environmental engineering department at San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
So I got to do that, and I was their eyes and ears. We had a test pilot out at the Delhi water treatment plant. We were doing biofuels made from algae. So they treat the water in Delhi, instead of using chemicals, they use algae. And then we those get separated, and you can synthesize the crude algae into biofuel.
I'm laughing over here because I'm listening to him, right? And you remind me of my brother Aaron. Shout out to Aaron. He works for Bayer, the medication company, right? Bayer. And he speaks like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's funny because everybody be like, "Oh, you're a chemist. You can be a pharmacist." No, no. I prefer the more other methods than synthesized products. But I'm very grateful for that.
I do recall, because you're separating beta particles and
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you. I don't know any of this stuff either.
You're hanging around
Yeah.
22. Okay, so Luke, one more question for you. What skills from science translate into business and leadership?
Leadership wise is the discipline and the perseverance. Those terms keep coming up, but it really is. I mean, when you do something that's not easy, like you have to want to do it. And business wise, I've always been a leader. So I think that's something like leading, whether it's leading the group, when you're studying, things like that. So I think in business, that's where it's kind of helped me, is because it gives you, again, more discipline and perseverance, but it really did. You have to work extremely hard, and like I said, late nights, long hours, and I was working full time as well, so it's tough. But I'm grateful because the business wise, I think it helped me become a better leader.
Okay, to the group, why do you think students should be interested in science? I asked to the group, anybody, just popcorn out.
Well, you're talking about something that is so amazing of a topic, right? When you're talking about science, you mentioned the algae, right?
Yeah.
I remember, again, you teach enough of something, right? You remember, and how the algae is the organic, and that's the best way. And I remember connecting that in the classroom, the swamps, Louisiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
The biodiversity and all that.
yeah, and that excited the kids. You asked me, why is it? That's why.
I skipped that class.
Well, that's okay though. That's okay though. It's like, this is what it's about. Knowledge is just circling around, right? And there's a specialist, and that when I hear this, all I hear is, I had to go deep into the belly of the beast of study, cramming, right? Read and just having to learn all this information.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I was afraid of it when I was younger. I stayed away. I thought it was cool.
See, I
stayed
ran right
away.
towards it.
That's amazing.
I think that's a really interesting point too, Tony, that you made, is because sometimes you do see that there is a fear that develops as a result of science. You have those students that say, oh my gosh, I can't take chemistry,
Nice.
or I can't take math. I can't do it, and you can, right? It's important, I think, and our best students, you obviously being a chem major, you did well, of course, right? But even our best students, they need support, and we all need some support at some level. And I imagine when you were doing a chem class, say, chem 2 or 3, or the other difficult ones that I can't even think of that are out there. I imagine that when you're doing these classes, he probably had, and you're taking not just a lecture for a class, you have a lecture, you got a lab, you got a discussion.
And deadlines.
That's like, what is that, 9 units for one class?
Yeah.
And you're taking
No,
multiple
it's only
classes?
5 because they only give you 1 for the discussion and 1 for the 3-hour lab.
Wow.
You get 3 for the lecture.
And then, by the way, you're not always getting guided by your professor because you've got lab assistant or whoever they are,
Yeah, lab
the
assistants.
TAs,
Yeah, the TAs.
or the residents.
Dr. Brooks, you mentioned something, and I want to not skip that point.
Yeah.
You said, people convince you that it's not easy or it's hard for students, right? And so what do you think we should do as educators to reinforce those values so students don't think that it's hard? So how can we make it easier for them or simplify it mentally so they don't become intimidated by walking into those spaces? What do you think we can do?
We got to provide those supports. We have to provide those opportunities where there's peer study groups, where they have resources, where they know. How many students know that they have access to the people in the library that can be a resource? How many students, especially if you're a first generation student, right, going to college, how many of them know that they have access to their professors during office hours, or are even, maybe you're intimidated by that, right? So it's trying to let students know that, that you have these opportunities for support, for guidance, and that, you can rely on each other for help.
Well, and I was going to say that, you can make it fun. I remember at a young age, and I'm grateful because I've had a couple really good professors. I've had some really hard ones, don't get me wrong, but there's those ones that make it fun, and you can have cool demonstrations. And I think if we can do that at a younger age, it can get people, because it is a scary subject. They are scary subjects. They're not easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But I mean, for doing the gen classes, it's mostly qualitative. You don't get into quantitative until you get into upper division.
I want to stop you right there for a second. I want to interrupt for just a second. You said it is a hard subject, right? What do you think? Because I think it's subjective.
Which subject?
True.
Science,
True.
right? Because I think that everything is subjective to say that something is hard or difficult. Because I've had people tell me, "Oh, history is a hard class," right? Or they'll say English is a hard class, right? But then they'll breeze right through it. Some other people will breeze right through it. So is it subjective, or is it really hard? What do you think?
I'd say it's subjective.
Okay.
But probably the average is leaning hard on the ones that think it's hard versus the ones that it comes maybe a little easier.
And again, math-based degrees essentially are extremely rigorous.
And econ is one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And I'm not
Both of these guys, man.
I'm not going to stand in front of you and say I was an A student. I was a C, but you know what? There was a lot of people that could not hang. It was tough. And it's only because, shout out to Mr. Kislin, Manteca High, my teacher. That dude could teach math, and he made me want to do it.
He made you want to do it, right? So he made you want to do it. So this is a topic for a different
stand and deliver.
Show. However, why do you think that the scores culturally are different in our country? We have some cultures who do very well in math, science, and then some cultures that don't. And that's just, like Luke said earlier, numbers. But that's a topic for a different time.
But I want to ask, what do you think it might be? Is it the access, the opportunity? What do you think it could be? I mean, you're a director, of course, and what?
I think it's conditioning.
Yeah.
I think that, culturally, many of us have been conditioned to believe that something is difficult. And as a result of that, then you believe that it's difficult, so it becomes difficult. And that's why in other cultures, they promote it, they push it, they live in it, and so it's no longer difficult. Because what can you say about the human experience that changes us, right? So if we think, like, for example, rapping or learning something like that, it's like you can mean to tell me that you can go through a whole rap language and learn all of these raps and all of these different things, and you're a poet now, right? But you can't pick that up.
Okay.
Come on, again, conditioning.
Yeah.
You just said something. You got triggered a memory. Okay. Cultures. Okay. Something I noticed.
Thought he was gonna say he had a mixtape.
No. Who's the comic now? Boom. See.
Do you have a mixtape?
Well, let's not talk about that. Luke.
Sorry.
Comedy mixtape right over here.
Okay, let's get back on topic.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're not. Hey, listen, that's coming. All right, and we'll drop that soon. But back to the whole culture, right? I'm in the classroom, and I met so many other students from outside the U.S., and I noticed just differences. Okay, let's just say that. And I was enthralled. That's when my first, again, born and raised Manteca, California, not a lot of diversity, right? Sac State, I did it way late in the game. And luckily I was cool enough to hang with the kids. 3-year-old Tony's going out and having pizza, okay, with these young bucks. Brilliant, you know. And that's a shout out to Ivan, Samir, okay, brilliant guys. But, dude, these guys, it's the culture. You nailed it.
Yeah, Dr. Rob apparently agrees with me because we need to keep the doors open for learning. You know, everyone can learn. We just have to, Tony, you said it also, we have to make it relate, have to have someone in front to help students relate to it and then simplify it for them because we have to begin to unwrap and make it easier so it's not a puzzle. You know? We should have access and be able to give students an experience that helps them resonate with it somehow. Because that's what happens anyway.
Yeah.
We try to teach the students. If you don't understand something, what do? We try to make it relatable. We try to repeat those things, and we try to give it to them in a way in which they can digest it. But what happens over and over again? But if another culture is already doing it from a young age, it's not hard for them. It's easy for them because they've started that way. Technology. Our young people have started with phones in their hand at 2-3 years old. So navigating a phone is not going to be difficult for them at all versus like my parents or my grandparents were like, "What is this? Can you program this for me?"
Grandma still has a flip phone.
And thank you, Dr. Rob. I appreciate that.
Celebration. We got to celebrate achievements.
Oh,
Absolutely.
From the youngest to the oldest. Dude, that's huge.
Absolutely. So, you know, it is 7:18, and I want to make sure that we're staying on time. So we're going to thank you very much for that, by the way. But we're going to go to advice to the next generation. Let's bring this one home, okay? Dr. Brooks, what would you tell someone thinking about pursuing a doctorate?
I would say, you know, again, I go back to your why. You know, is that part of your why? Is that something that you really, really want to do? And if you have the time and you think that you can do it, you know, believe in yourself and go for it. I think you can do it. I think I'm a living testament to the fact that, you know, because I was balancing so many things. You know, I was an AXA president. I was a school site administrator. I was doing so many different things as I started off my doctoral journey. And, you know, it's tough to find the time sometimes, but you can do it. But it's also a sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And like I said, knowing your why can help you get through it. But I say certainly go for it.
If everyone could do it, they would. Of course it's going to be hard, but thank you very much for that. So, Luke, what advice do you have for students interested in STEM?
It's not as scary as you think it is.
What is STEM?
Science, tech, engineering, math? Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And I'm sorry, but I don't like this new STEAM thing.
Yeah, I was thrown off myself. It was just,
but yeah, it's not as hard as you think. Breaking it down into little micro parts, try to make it fun. At least doing the general education. Like I said, it's mostly qualitative. You don't really get into the real mathy stuff until you get into upper division.
Nice,
you know, yeah.
And the STEAM, it does take the steam out of STEM.
You know, I knew you was gonna do
Sorry,
that.
sorry.
I knew it.
Sorry.
I knew you couldn't.
Everybody-
You're enjoying this, right?
Oh, this is.
Hey, someone's got to do the jokes.
You
here.
know,
He's taking the night off
I'm
over
holding
here.
back
He's
because I don't
taking
want
the
to
night
break
off.
up the doctors. I thought you said he was stimming. You know, it's crazy. But back to it.
No, I
It's
have
not-
something for you.
Talk to me.
Okay. What do students need to hear right now?
You can do it.
Okay.
You can do it,
Okay.
but you have to want to do it.
Right.
Again, back to your why. But I'll say this: it's hard, and I'm feeling my kids now. You don't have all the resources that a lot of the others don't. So there's a goal, there's a plan for you. It's not might not be a doctorate, you know, or even a bachelor's, but there's something to achieve. I've seen it. I got a student at 2 just completed a season of wrestling. That in 10 years of my career never happened. Guess what? It happened. Okay, that's achievement. And see, that's the kind of stuff you celebrate. So, I mean, I can go on, but man.
Thank you for that, Tony. I appreciate that. So now it is 7:21. Okay. So we are cooking.
Okay.
So we're up to our final word. I know it's like already.
Yeah, it goes by quick.
Man, it does.
I've been sitting here for 5 minutes. It's final word already. This is when we give our guests and senior education contributors some time to do a final closing message. So we're going to start with who? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
No, you're going to go last, sir.
Oh, no.
Well, I
You're
just
gonna go
talked.
last.
So I did, you know, I mean,
So final words about education. I think everybody needs to figure out what their why is, figure out what you want to learn in. And again, like he said, it doesn't have to be a doctor, it doesn't have to be a bachelor's, it could be a trade school. That's a whole topic that we could go on, another one. So just figure out what makes you happy, what your spark is, and just go for it. Because it's important to do it, for sure. Like we said, you have to pursue education. And I think it's important to do it our whole lives. It keeps that brain sharp, you know? So yeah, just figure out your why, figure out what you love, and go for it. There's gonna be ups and downs. It's not gonna be easy. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that, but it'll work out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah. Tony.
so just to piggyback, I got an old buddy. His name's Critter. All right.
Critter.
I won't say
Sounds
his
like
name.
a buddy he would have.
We played a little ball on the gridiron. He was a heck of a lineman, but all heart. Wasn't the best with all that we're talking about. But you know what Critter did? He got an HVAC. And you know what happened next? He figured out how the whole big picture worked. We ran into each other 2 years ago, and I'm feeling good. Yay, Tony, you did something for yourself. You didn't just hit your head all the time. You know, you got a degree, you did this, you taught. And he goes, you know, we're talking, you know, because we're like that. How much you make? You know, and he goes, well, this month, slow month, I made $14,000 this month. I looked, and my mouth just went, trade school.
Yeah.
Kids, we can do this.
Yeah.
You can do things.
Absolutely. Thank you. You know, when we talk about education and we said, does it matter or how much is it worth now? Like I mentioned earlier, I'm the only one who went to college in my family. However, I make the least amount of money. You know, and it's crazy because I look at the amount of money that I make in addition to the student loan that I have to pay back. My brothers have zero student loan debt, make more than me with just a high school diploma, and my younger brother, who's at Bayer, he went to school for like a semester in college, right? But in Bayer, what they allowed him to do was take these aptitude tests to just show proficiency. He was gifted in math and science. He was gifted, but he also followed and shadowed scientists around so he could learn the job. So there are ways in which you can navigate life without having to go to college. So I never want to tell anybody that you have to go to college to be successful. However, like we've talked about, getting the degree, once you have it, no one can take it away from you.
Yeah.
It's yours forever. You know, and the whole thing about imposter syndrome, when we talked about it earlier, it's the thing. You have to ask yourself, is it a good thing or a bad thing? because eventually your brain and your body begins to catch up to you, and you start believing it, and you start walking in those shoes. Because I graduated after my whole graduating class. Everyone graduated in June. I graduated in August. And 2 weeks later, I was on the bus going into the military because I couldn't graduate on. I didn't graduate on time because of I was behind credits. And so if I, who didn't graduate high school on time, received a doctorate degree or earned a doctorate degree, anybody can. So again, I feel like, Dr. Brooks, your story was a true testament of perseverance and how you can overcome obstacles and go get it, that human experience. Thank you for sharing that. Tony G, Luke, again, I thank you very much for your contributions to today's topic. It was truly a very heartwarming experience for me. This was special. Now, I know we always do final word, but I'm going to give us 1 minute to go around and do one final word.
Final word.
What does that mean?
Go with Luke, and then I'm going to get to you
let's
because you
start
don't
on
have the
that
last word.
Close out over here. I got you guys.
And you want one word?
One word.
One word.
One word. Okay, name one word or give one word that you want to end today with.
Perseverance.
Okay.
Whose word did I steal?
Okay. Yeah. Tony.
Joy.
Okay. Now you get one word and your final word. Dr. Brooks.
Imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Doesn't really have anything to do with pasta. Okay. But no, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Rogers, for being the host. Has he done an amazing job?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
How about a round of
Yes.
applause? Seriously.
Yes.
I'm humbled.
Yes.
I'm humbled. Thank you
Dr.
very
Brooks,
much.
that's more than one word.
And I tell hey, listen, I tell people all the time it's not easy doing a live broadcast.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not easy being a host, and you make it look easy though.
Oh, hey, I'm over here sweating.
Same. I was nervous in the beginning, but I'm having a good time.
But
Had a great
everyone
time.
in here, you made it very easy for me. So I thank you very much for being the people that you are. Again, this group and this family, even in the back, are just wonderful people who have made this whole experience just special. Oh. And this is what we talk about when we talk about that human experience. Leaders are in this room. Leaders are in that back room who really show people the heart and what it means to have that human connection that makes things valuable. Because no matter how I feel, I want to come here.
Oh.
No matter how I feel, I want to be here with you. So again, I was disappointed when I saw your videos that you were hanging out, doing comedy night. I was in LA at the conference and I couldn't go, but I was sad.
Hey, there's more coming. A lot more.
Yeah.
Again, I thank you very much for continuing to post. So, Dr.
Well-
Brooks, last word.
Well, we missed you, and but you know what? Going to that conference was very important. It's important to go to conferences. It goes back to that continuing education that Luke talked about too.
Yes.
It's never, you're never too old to learn, right? It's important to continue to learn because, again, it helps to keep you sharp and things like that. I just would say this, that, and kind of echoing something that Tony said, there's so many opportunities, whether it's careers in technical education, going into HVAC, whether it's, going to cosmetology school, or, find again what your why is, find what you're passionate about, as we talked about too on the show tonight. And, whatever it might be, try to pursue that. And we talked a lot tonight about imposter syndrome. That is a real thing. I made a joke of it because Tony's taking the night off here, but our resident comedian. Hey, just give you.
I know. No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving this.
But what I was saying is that it is a real thing.
Jeremy, what's gotten into you?
There are a lot of folks out there who think that they can't do it.
know.
And you can do it, okay?
You can do it.
You can do it.
See, I was going to say all this.
We won't say the
but
rest of
I
that
didn't
line.
want to cross any lines.
We don't want to say
We
the rest
can
of the
do
line.
it, guys.
Okay,
Come
we're not
on.
gonna finish that.
That's it. That's all. That's all I'm saying. You did it. You
It's a
guys.
family show here.
See what this guy does? He winds me up. He winds me up.
But I just want to say thank you guys. This has been an absolute wonderful opportunity. We love you guys. This has been fun. And listen, don't be afraid to continue your education. And again, whatever it is, whatever your passion is, don't be afraid. And also find those supports, whether it's math or science. Figure out again what you like, and if you have to take those classes, don't be intimidated by them, because even our best students out there who are majoring in chemistry, who are majoring in economics, they do rely on support, and it's a team effort. So anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you very much for that, sir.
Jeremy, can you look at my hand real
Well,
quick? Check that
that
out.
brings us to the end of our
that.
show,
Look at
tonight's
that.
episode of the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. Tonight, we flipped the script. You allowed me, your host, Dr. Kofi, a.k.a. administrator of, you know the rest. I had an honor today. Thank you very much. Again, Dr. Brooks, thank you for allowing me to sit in your seat. And I want to thank Tony G, Luke, in the back. Thank you very much for your support. All of our followers, our 1.5 million followers, viewers. It should be 1.6 now because I think you're growing. So again, bring a friend until next. Oh, you know what? Next week we will not be here because Dr. Brooks is going on a well-deserved vacation, and we want to wish him well on his vacation. But until we see you again the following week.
And Sean Hurtado is going to be on.
And yes, Sean Hurtado is going to be here in 2 weeks. So again, from us to you, thank you very much for allowing us an opportunity to come into your homes and to come into your hearts. We'll see you soon. We out.